Hey guys, welcome back to the Franchise Tag Podcast Season 2, Episode 16, coming right back at you, letting you know that our podcast is on Spotify. So go check it out there if you prefer to get your podcasts that way. Today, as always, we'll be going through our game-by-game recaps. Then we will be going through our segment video this week, which is a look at the Buffalo Bills and their performance this season. Then we'll do the PickEms recap and then get into our NFL stocks and our PickEms for the next week. And before we get into this next NFL week, not the one that we're recording this podcast for, but the one after that, there are games on Wednesday, and we will be posting at our normal time on Thursday. So the picks for any games that will take place before we are able to post will be put out on the official Franchise Tagged Twitter. We will make sure to get those picks in because the records matter and everything. But definitely check out that Twitter if you would like to see those picks. Would you like to kick us off with the so entertaining game that was Thursday Night Football?
Yes, the so entertaining Thursday Night Football matchup of the Rams and the 49ers. I'm pretty sure I actually got this one wrong in my pick'em. I think I picked the homers, and I'll take the L on that. I thought, they're going to be at home. They have a more healthy offense than they have had. And I think that's gonna go a little more tit for tat than the Rams. They really went high flying against the Bills, and I think they're gonna be brought down to earth. That didn't really happen. They
part
showed
of it
me up
did.
that I think the Rams are really like they're a team no one really wants to play going down the stretch with the absolute heater that they're on right now. Meeting them in the playoffs. For whatever team plays them. And I'm not sure it's a guaranteed, like the Rams, they have been vying for it. They've had to fight back to get into the playoff conversation. And so it's not a huge expectation that, they're going to just continue to just like pile drive teams because we saw how they played this Thursday. Like it's not a given that they're going to win, but they are they're making sure they stay winning.
Yeah, any way they can, really. That was just a horrendous game to watch. I've kept up the charade of it being a good game for as long as I can, which was about 6 words. Yeah, no touchdown scored. Awful game to view. It is back to the classic Thursday Night Football. This is what Thursday night was meant to be. We had enjoyed bliss for too long. We had to be brought back down to earth. And yeah, I just think it's funny that at one point in the season we were discussing Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp both being traded and the Rams kind of blowing it all up. And at the time, it was just kind of the popular rumor. And so I was like, yeah, that could happen. I could see that. Like, they're not having a great season. There's some aging talent on that roster. There's not really a huge incentive for them to keep everybody around. So why wouldn't you try to move off of them and get something back for them while you can? But looking back on it, I mean, why the hell would you? Like, what are the other options? Are you throwing Stetson? Is Stetson Bennett even still on the roster? Or what are we doing? Jimmy Garoppolo? He was playing scout team D end or something. Yeah, like it's just a kind of a funny thing to think back on. Then getting into Sunday, I watched the Texans play the Dolphins. That's right. That one was just a kind of disaster class from the Dolphins on a couple different levels. Tua did not look good. And then on the defensive side, C.J. Stroud looked elite. He was playing extremely well. He is back, looking more like his rookie year self. Had a little bit more time in the pocket, and was able to do basically whatever he wanted to the Dolphins defense. And then similarly in the AFC South, we saw the Titans play, and Will Levis threw 3 picks and was benched during the game, and is now officially benched for Mason Rudolph going forward. And I think that's the ultimate white flag. And unfortunately, I think that might signal the end of his shot at starting with the Titans, just because every time he's gotten his chance, he's shown flashes, but not enough. He's shown more bad than he has good. I feel like he had his debut game with them where he threw a few touchdowns to D-Hop, and that was basically all he did in his career there.
Yeah, he showed more flashes that first year than he showed at all this season. As I was making like my off-season predictions and stuff, I thought for sure that it's a head coach coming into this regime and he's going to have like faith and backing behind Levis, develop Levis because this is the old coordinator from the Bengals, so he knows a thing or two about good quarterbacks. And I think it was, oh yeah, I know a thing or two about good quarterbacks, and this ain't one of them. I'm not going to try to, sugarcoat that. I think that this season, with the benching, with just the play that we've seen from Will Levis, I think it was warranted, yes, but I also think that there wasn't a whole lot of support to give him a real opportunity for the season. I think it was okay, well, this is how we're going to play it because we want to go ahead and move off of this quarterback. This isn't a quarterback that fits under my regime as head coach, and I'm not going to stick around with what the old regime has, what the old regime drafted, and try to make that work for me. I'm going to just go ahead and get guys I enjoy and that I, sought after to add to the team. So I think that this is like it for Will Levis. I don't, he'll probably end up getting one of those backup jobs that opens up across the entire league all year for next season and might end up making a couple of starts. Might show those good flashes, might show those bad. It's just really going to depend on what regime, what scheme he kind of enters into.
All he needs is Kevin O'Connell. That's all he needs.
You know what? Give him KOC. You want another cheap quarterback?
I know you got Daniel Jones, but you want another one?
Yeah. Go ahead and add him onto the pile. The quarterback guy by committee. And then while we're talking about it, we got a 3 interception game leading to a benching, leading to a whole season ending, benching for a team. Yep, that's what happened with the Browns. They played the Chiefs, which was actually the first convincing Chiefs win yet this season.
They beat the Saints. They beat the Saints.
They won actually convincingly though. You didn't think that it's going to be what was the score? It was 10 points for the Saints.
I thought it was 2 scores. I thought it was 21-7 or something like that.
10 is 2 scores, but
it was 13. It was 26-13.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, winning by 14 over the Browns, and the Browns threw 4 interceptions. It wasn't like a great day for the Chiefs. They scored pretty consistently those first 2 quarters, and then it was just kind of okay, fall off a cliff. Patrick Mahomes left the game with injury for his annual arc of my ankle hurts. Because that feels like it's every single Super Bowl, I think, the past 2 years. He's got something going on.
It is an arc. It's I'm playing through injury, even though, the injury's a day-to-day thing. We're going to call it week to week. And then I'm going to have this toughness moniker on me. And they're going to be like, whoa, what is he doing? He's playing through injury. Look at how great this guy is. Oh, my goodness.
The shots in his ankle immediately, straight to the point, just in those toward all. Really helps with the pain.
Mm-hmm. Then this, I don't know if you, I know I sent you the picture of the refs report about the Saints and Commanders ending. Did you watch that at all or see anything else about that?
I didn't watch it. I didn't see it. I read that and I saw I didn't have it on my broadcast. I just, when you were telling me about Saints Commies, I was watching the play-by-play on ESPN. But besides that, seeing that it was an actual close game and then you explaining the ref situation there. Yeah, that's some Pop Warner shit.
So there's some bigger controversy than I'm gonna put on it because the over under, I think, or the spread for the game, the Saints covered because they were given an extra play when they shouldn't have been, and they scored a touchdown on that play. So there's a lot of people that bet on football that are mad about that. But basically what happened was the Saints completed a pass over the middle, and the receiver was tackled, He goes down. Clock is supposed to continue rolling. There's 9 seconds left. The clock stops. No timeouts, no spiking, down in bounds. Very evident that the clock should be rolling. The clock stops, and it lets the Saints get off another play. And I'm pretty sure that the somebody like started a timer from when the clock stopped to when the Saints snapped the ball. And even if they had rolled that time, it would have gone off the clock. It would have ended the game. So they should not have had the final play that got them into the end zone, which then set up them going for 2. Luckily, they did not get the 2-point conversion, because if they did, that'd be a whole other can of worms that we'd have to get into on their refs legitimately changing the outcome of the game. Whereas this way, it's just, made it look closer on paper, screwed over some bettors. But
watching the play-by-play, it literally said like just, oh, this play happened. Okay, what's going to happen now? Is the game over? And then it said spiked. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. Nothing fishy there. Huh. What is all this hoopla about?
Yeah. And then the refs after the fact were like, yeah, that clock shouldn't have been stopped. Oh, well, did you think about like reviewing that to roll the clock from there? Couldn't be done. That's not something that's reviewable. It's like, okay, so there was a mistake made? Yeah. And it seems pretty easily fixable? Yeah. Well, why didn't you fix it? Well, it can't be reviewed. It's like, this is why the refs are hated. This is why I've designed this graphic right here. But anywho, we can get on to another. We can get on to the Lions Bills if you want to talk about that.
Mm-hmm. I don't, but we can.
Hey, it was a 6-point loss, dude. That was a hell of a game, and unfortunately, some fallout after the fact. Your boy Monty.
Yeah. It's a MCL injury for Montgomery, and he had exited the game after not very long into the game, and then he came back out, and it was like, okay, good, he's back. We're not gonna have to like really change a whole lot. We're gonna keep using him, and then eventually, the running backs weren't that important as clock became very prevalent. So, we didn't rush a whole lot in this game. We were able to get pigeonholed into passing, which I think Jared Goff did a great job passing the ball, despite what your average Vikings fan would say. And
Casual fan.
Josh Allen made some extremely mind-blowing lobs up. There were some just fantastic plays made overall by all players. Dawson Knox had a fingertip, tap back to himself catch. Matt Collins did the same on the onside late in the game. And then is it Ty Johnson? Ty Johnson going off receiving with 100 yards after a quarter and a half receiving for him. There was a good handful of players that were just, it's that linebacker leverage for the running back out of the backfield. It's just some wide open lanes because you see Josh Allen running towards the line of scrimmage and you're thinking, okay, we got to cover this guy instead. There was I think it was a holding call, but Josh Allen tried the chest pass TD when Brian Branch stepped forward out of the zone because he was approaching that line of scrimmage. Josh Allen played out of his mind. He played a perfect game, and I think, you can safely say that the Lions offense did as well. There was one punt for the Bills. The Lions were down a good bit. Basically a 2-point game, 2-score game the whole game until the end. And even at the end, we one onside looked really good until Matt Collins did that, and then the other onside looked really good, but you get in a giant scrum on a pile. It's got to be 50-50 on who gets that. It was just good execution on the onsides themselves. It was a exhilarating game, but the injuries are really mounting with an extra 4 this game for the Lions. You've got so many starters down defensively. Now we're losing people offensively, and it's starting to feel like, there was a lot of talk soon as Hutch got hurt of he could be ready for the Super Bowl, and it's well, are we going to make it that far because all of this other stuff is going on?
Yeah, I think luckily the Lions benefit from being in the NFC where there's not a Bills or Chiefs or Ravens that they have to go through to get to the Super Bowl. There is an Eagles and Vikings and Packers,
Hmm.
but they've proven that they can beat those kind of teams. It's the AFC ones that they kind of struggle with, namely the Bills, because Josh Allen is out of his fucking mind. And I
Hmm.
think it's just really funny that Lamar on Sunday put up 5 touchdowns, 290 yards, 21 of 25 passing. Like I ran the perfect passer rating calculation on that, or the passer rating
Hmm.
calculation, and it was like a 154. So it was just shy. I don't think he averaged enough yards per attempt to get it.
Hmm.
But it's just crazy to me that he did that and dropped in the MVP race. Like he did all of that and got further down into second place because Josh Allen led his team to a shootout victory against the 1 seed in the NFC, where Lamar
Hmm.
was doing that against the Giants. Which, yeah, like come on, it's the Giants. If you don't do that, it's a little bit suspicious. But we can move on to the Sunday night game, the Packers at Seahawks. The Packers clap cheeks, they belt to ass on the Seahawks, and the Seahawks offensive line looked rough. Like Gino was in there and he was making it look almost passable. Like he was making the offensive line look like a bottom tier NFL caliber offensive line. Then Sam Howell came in, and Sam Howell made the offensive line look like a bottom tier FCS offensive line against the Packers defense. And I think that speaks more to Geno Smith's ability to conduct traffic and get the ball out when he needs to, and much less to Sam Howell's inability to do so. Because Sam Howell, he's not great, but he proved that he could be at least a decent caliber quarterback in the NFL for the Commanders for a year. Like he was okay, nothing crazy.
Yeah, but during that year, it was also like, there was the Commanders' O line sucks. Let's get Sam Howell some help because the Commanders' O line sucks, and he led the league in sacks and all of that. And I feel like as of late with quarterbacks, there's been the whole like they're generating their own pressure, like Justin Fields, Caleb Williams. Like there's a certain point where the O line can only be blamed so much for a sack, and Sam Howell was definitely in that conversation, especially when we see how the O line for the Commanders do. Granted, the Commanders kind of changed the whole system and scheme.
Yeah, I agree with you to a point, but Sam Howell had 5 net yards against the Pack. Five net yards, and that is the ninth worst
Ah,
game.
14 attempts passing. Holy crap.
So that's the ninth worst game by a quarterback with 15 plus dropbacks in any game since 2000. It ranks 13,004th out of 13,012. So
Fourth.
slightly Sam Howell's fault, sure, but is it entirely his fault that he had the 13,004th best game? I don't think so. I think there's a lot of blame to be put on that offensive line, and the stat on Kenneth Walker and him being contacted on average, I think behind the line of scrimmage, is another damning stat.
Oh, yeah.
Where the
Like
only
the Seahawks O line isn't good, but I think you put you put praise on Geno for the line looking passable, and I'm saying yes, but also Sam Howell has been known to make lines look bad.
yes, I
So
think the elevation that Gino does is much higher than the lowering that Sam does.
yeah.
I think that Sam probably lowers it by, like, if we're putting it in percentage points just to make it easy. I think Sam lowers it by probably 20%. I think Gino elevates it by like 50 to 60% to make it look like at least almost
An NFL
a
offensive
competent
line.
offensive line. Yeah. But yeah, that's back to last season when we were doing our mock drafts. We were asking for some input on what teams needed, and there were a couple Seahawks fans that were like, "Christ, dude, we need interior offensive line
Yeah,
bad." And
it was
the
always
only
the
ways,
interior too.
yeah, the only ways they were getting rushing yards is on outside zones. That was all Zach Charbonnet was able to gain yards on. And I mean, he did fine, but I swear every time he ran up the middle, it was a loss of 3. But every time he was given an outside zone, he was able to just let me run outside the offensive line so I don't have to deal with them, and then I'll run my own stuff. But
Yeah,
we
and
we
I
don't have to
remember
talk that much about a
even with
blowout.
the Seahawks O line, earlier this year we were like, oh my gosh, Stone Forsythe is out there, and
Shout out my boy
I think
Stone.
he got injured at some point. I don't know if he was injured for this game, but
They wish he was back out there.
yeah, the O line is not. If you needed people interior, and now you're losing the pieces you had exterior, that sounds like you've got no O line. That sounds
Yeah.
like you've got just some bodies in the way.
Yeah. Moving on to Monday Night Football, you were the Bears Vikings NFC North correspondent, and I was the Falcons Raiders correspondent. I'm going to let you talk for as long as you want to about that matchup, and I'm going to talk for about 4 seconds about mine.
Oh, I'll let you go first with your quick 4 seconds. I think we can do that, and then I'll make it an actual length before before we transition off.
Okay. It was not a Desmond Ritter revenge game. The refs suck, and Kirk Cousins should be benched. Raheem Morris did not commit to him being a starter. Those are the events of the game.
All right. I think you overdid your 4 seconds. That was
Sorry,
allotted,
I went to 5, man.
I'll let it pass. I'll let it pass. All right. With the Vikings Bears game, it's so much less that when you look at the score itself, it's so much less like, oh wow, the Vikings really did good. It was simply the Bears just. I don't know if it's like they everyone just like cried onto their playbook and then it got soggy and all the plays melded together and no one was able to memorize anything because they're just so emotional over in Chicago. But they get onto the opponent's side of the field and everything falls apart. They start off on their side of the field like most offenses do, and you also generally cannot get things going. It's such a weird thing because they fired an offensive coordinator. They've got a new guy coming in. They're trying to make as much work because you went ahead and you got an elevated OC now being the elevated offense or the head coach. So there's a lot on this guy's plate out of nowhere, and yet like the Bears, I think it was another game where they had like nothing in the first half. I 2 weeks ago, was it the 4 offensive yards in the first half?
Like that,
yeah. And out of the past 3 games, I saw the stat that the Bears have been outscored 53-0, and they just cannot convert when they get into any. Which the Vikings are very good at this. They force you into a long third down. They force you into long things to convert in general. But the Bears just cannot muster up anything. It's accuracy from Caleb Williams. It's hesitancy from Caleb Williams where there's a couple times where Keenan Allen is going to be wide open. He's making this cut on this slant route, and Caleb Williams is putting it a yard or 2 out of reach of him off that cut. So he's having to dive, and he gets a finger on it, and that's it. Plays over, hits ground. And it's partly that. It's part of like, oh, I see someone wide open, and I'm going to double clutch it because I'm sure he's being like just really questioning everything. And he's been very, let's not get it confused. He's not very interception heavy. He's exactly the opposite. But it's part of why he's not executing well, is he's playing it safe. He's treating it like I cannot throw a pick, so if I see something, I need to make sure I see it wide open, and it's not just like a trick of the eyes. And then also with the accuracy, he's missing deep, he's overthrowing, he had a couple plays where like, oh my, like that's good, but a lot of the time it's just like, okay, I see something and it's covered, I am going to dance around the pocket, I'm going to do all of the things we raved about, but it's not working in the NFL. Because the NFL is faster and he can't outrun these guys like he could before in college. Like he's running and he's got a 300-pounder running the same speed as him. On the Vikings side of it, I don't have a whole lot to touch on because the main thing I took away from it was like, okay, the Bears are like trying their best defensively, and offensively they do not know what they are doing. They either throw behind the sticks or they throw ever so slightly ahead of the sticks but inaccurately or late or just, oh, this hitch is definitely covered, but I'm going to fit it in there, and there's not going to be any yards after catch on this. It's not the best game for the Vikings, and they still, won by the margin they did, 30-12. And I'm glad that the Vikings aren't looking their best as of late. Like they feel like they have some disjointedness offensively. The defense is still doing its thing, but offensively they aren't being like the absolute bullies they have been. But the Vikings are still the Vikings. They're still racking up wins. They're still a big threat for that 1 seed.
Yeah. From the little bit of that game that I watched, it was just dysfunction throughout the Bears. I don't think that it's entirely Caleb's fault, but I also don't think he's doing enough to overcome situation. And obviously, you're a team that's picking first overall, not your pick, but you're in the position where you're taking the first overall pick, and it's just not going to be the best situation to go into. I think Bears fans were a little bit, I wouldn't say delusional, but a little bit misguided when looking at the season before the season started. When looking at their team, they were like, we can be pretty damn good. Justin Fields had us this good. We think Caleb is better than Justin. And then they come in Caleb comes in and isn't like definitively better than Fields was. I think there's a lot he can improve on, and there's a lot he will improve on, especially with a new coaching staff next season. Maybe Ben Johnson, he can unlock some of the potential. But with the recaps out of the way, we can get into our segment if you would like.
Yep, let's go for it.
Intro it in 3, 2, 1. So heading into this season, the Bills traded away or released several starters, and many people assumed that this would be a step back, a retooling year, not quite a rebuilding year for them. But now, heading into Week 16, Josh Allen is the MVP frontrunner, and the Bills have beaten the 1 seed in both the NFC and the AFC within the past 4 games. The question is how? What changed from offseason to now, and what stayed the same from last season to this season? And why were the Bills successful when the assets added seemed like significantly lower tier than the assets lost?
Yeah, I'm going to kick us off with the offseason departures for the Bills this preseason, last year's offseason. And, there were big names, like you said. There's the Stephon Diggs leaving. There's Gabe Davis leaving. So you already got your 2 main receiving yard leaders for the team of last season out the door. And you are losing Leonard Floyd, an edge that you got and was very productive for you. You're losing Trey White. You're losing Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Mitch Morse. Like, you're losing a good amount of defensive players that played for you. You are losing a pretty main centerpiece of your offensive line. I feel Mitch Morse is a name that isn't like scoffed at. This is a good player. And while the DBs may or may not have the same drawing power as the rest of the roster I kind of listed that was leaving the team, if you look at this departures list and you read this out and you imagine like a team with all of these players, you're imagining a pretty good team. You're not looking at this and being like, oh wow, they're really cutting off some of their bad contracts or cutting off some of their worst players. Like, these are the main departures that you look at and you're like, oh wow, okay, receivers gone. You're looking at some defensive production that's going to be missing. And then, do you want to cover like the people that they had come in for this? Because these aren't big names. These do not match the same draw.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have these names listed, and I was like, if this is either their entire free agent class or you just like picked some names at random, because there's no way these are the biggest names. But they brought in Curtis Samuel and Mac Hollins to replace Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs, somewhat replace them. And then they brought in Nick Morrow at linebacker, Taylor Rapp at safety, and Will Clapp at center. I feel like losing a center is a big thing, even if he isn't the mainstay of your offensive line, just because the chemistry between center and quarterback needs to be good for you to be a good, productive offense. And the center oftentimes will make adjustments or call out blitzers or something like that. Normally they are the captain of the offensive line. So bringing in a new center and bringing in these new, I would still consider these lower tier players than a Gabe Davis and a Stephon Diggs. But bringing these in, you kind of expect a drop off. Like I said, you expect this to be I wouldn't say you expect to be a full rebuild because you still do have Josh Allen. You still do have some mainstays on offense. Your offensive line is good. Deion Dawkins. And then you've got James Cook. You've got Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. You've got some good weapons that you're still keeping. But it's definitely seen as a retooling year where you're like trimming off the fat. You're getting rid of the older players who are still good but may not be in your far off future plans. And it's the kind of thing we see from teams where you get rid of these players and you expect to be a step back for a year or two and then better off 3 years down the line, but not necessarily better off immediately after removing these players. And we're going to look real quick at whether or not they are better off after removing those players. So we're going to look at some stats from the 2023 season and then compare them to the 2024 season among various players and then the overall team ranks. And I know you gathered the team ranks, so I would like to let you talk about the differences in offensive production and defensive production year to year, and then I'll get into some of the individual players and then trends as well.
Yeah, for sure. So last season we saw, and this is the 2023 season in full because of course we don't have the full season done for the 2024, but this is up to this point 2024 and the full season of last season. So I'm not like negating the last 3 games of last season. That's their full stats. It's just for this season I'm only considering up to this point. So for 2023, the team ranked 6th in offensive points per game. That was a 26.5 points per game. And in 2024, thus far, they are ranking 2nd, and they are at 31.8 points per game, which that's a big jump.
That's like a touchdown, almost adding an extra touchdown every game.
You are going to go ahead. Those 1-score games are no longer 1-score games. Those are 2-score games. Those are much more convincing wins this year around due to the extra offensive production there. And then, that's reflected as well with their yards per game with the 375, or rounded up, 375 yards per game in 2023. They ranked 4th. And then this year, ever so slightly down, but, with their resulting in more scores with the points per game going up, they're at 369.6, so round that up to 370. You're only down 5 yards. That ranks 7th on the year, but it's 5 yards. It's not going to be a 1-to-1. They're going to be 5th because they're down. Offensive across the league is different, but you got 5 less yards, 7 more points. I think a lot of teams will take that in this league. Defensively, this is where we saw a lot of that, we'll call trimming the fat happen of that defensive contracts that they had. They were ranked last year, they ranked 4th. They had 18.3 points per game allowed defensively. And then this year, it's 22.1 points allowed per game, but that's 12th. So now you went from being a very top 5, slightly, out of that top 5 into the more middle of the pack defenses, and it's only 4 points. So as a whole, you have gone ahead and given yourself an extra touchdown and allowed an extra field goal. So, you're still feeling good about that ratio, defensive to offensively. This year, however, they have had some injuries to the back end, and I think that kind of explains this next stat I'm going to go over, which is the total defensive yards allowed at 307 last year, and then this year at 345, and that's 9th to 23rd ranking-wise. So now you're dropping into that bottom half of the league in these yardage allowed. And I think, you go ahead and you're losing talent at the DB room, and you're adding talent that is not equal to the talent you lost, and now that talent's getting hurt. So you're going even further down. That's going to allow for more yardage. And I think with that situation itself, you are very happy to be allowing an extra 40 yards per game and only a field goal. That seems very proportionate to me. You're allowing 40 extra yards on one drive, which might have been a punt. Now it's resulting in a field goal. Makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah, I think so. I have Josh Allen's season stats from 2023 and then his pace stats from this season. So basically the stat divided by 14 because that's how many games they've played, multiplied by 17 because that's how many games they will play, and that's the pace that he's on, what he should get to if he averages the same amount. I'll put those above us, but there's one stat that I really want to hone in on, and it's one that we've talked about at length this season, and that is his interceptions. Last season, he had 29 passing touchdowns and 18 interceptions, This season, he is on pace for 30 passing touchdowns and just 6 interceptions. So we saw their offense average, we'll call it the same amount of yards per game, because that's essentially what it is. They didn't drop off enough for me to say that they're averaging less yards per game, and they didn't go up. But they are, like you said, averaging almost a touchdown more per game. And I think that comes down to Josh Allen not turning the ball over. They're able to keep drives going for longer because Josh Allen isn't as dangerous with the football. And I think that him losing out on Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, who are more of alpha type receivers, where Gabe Davis is kind of your go downfield and get it guy, and Stephon Diggs is, a diva that wants the ball, but he's commanding the ball, and so you're going to get it to him. Whereas the guys they have now are much more of like, who the hell is Khalil Shakir, right, at the beginning of the season? But now we're like, okay, he's a rack monster. And so this year, they're playing a bit of a different offense because of their weapons changing, but it's a safer and more high-scoring offense. So despite losing the better talent, it's allowed Josh to kind of show what he can do when he's unburdened by top-end talent. And I think that's a real thing that can happen, is you can be burdened by having this guy that you're like, well, we're paying him this much money, and he is this good of a player, so I have to get him the ball, even if it's not the best read. And I don't think we're seeing that as much this year, which is what's leading to Josh playing a much safer game. And I mean, he's on pace for basically the same amount of touchdowns, basically the same amount of yards, a couple hundred less, and basically the same completion percentage with, again, basically the same rushing. So the only stat that's really changed for him is those interceptions. And then another player that I've got here that I wanted to take a look at was James Cook, who last season had 1,500 scrimmage yards and 6 touchdowns. And this season, he's on pace for only around 1,300 scrimmage yards, but 17 touchdowns. So he's on pace for a touchdown a game. And I think that is where we see the difference in scoring for this Bills offense, where Josh Allen's not throwing picks. They're running the ball, I wouldn't say more, because James Cook isn't out rushing last season. It's just that they also have Ty Johnson and Ray Davis that they're mixing in. So I think rushing production on a whole is probably up from last year. But the ability to score touchdowns on this offense has increased while not dropping off their ability to get the ball down the field.
Yeah, when you look at the James Cook specific production with that touchdowns, less so on the yardage, they're not exactly out rushing where they were at last year. They spread the ball around a little bit more, like you had said with Ty Johnson. But when you look specifically at the running of the team, it's slightly different. It's certainly a team that was very primarily in 2023. Josh Allen is where we are going to run the ball through. We are going to get the ball with him. And yes, James Cook had a phenomenal season last year, but he primarily was like, okay, Josh Allen will be the spark plug in the rushing game, because some games they just were not producing whatsoever with James Cook. And I think the main difference has been that Ken Dorsey was fired as their offensive coordinator. Joe Brady took over. And a big part of Joe Brady has been, we are going to make our run game good. We are going to prioritize the run game and keep it balanced, because they want to, when you lose the wide receivers you did, you don't want to be top 5 in, pass attempts when your offense is like looking for something. When you're not down in a game, you shouldn't be overly passing the ball versus running the ball. You should try to keep a good balance there. And I think Joe Brady has definitely embodied that, prioritizing the rush game, prioritizing the balance between offense of rushing and passing, and making sure that they're not a team that's just going to pass the ball all the time, always. But when they do pass, they're making sure that they get it to the right guys and guys that can produce after the catch. And that's something that you have right here as well.
Yeah. So in 2023, the Bills had 46% of their passing yards come after the catch, which I didn't look at like actual league averages for that. But from the couple teams that I clicked through and checked the stats on, it was about that. It was like roughly mid to high 40s. This season, they have increased that pretty significantly. 54% of their passing yards are now coming after the catch this season. And I think that kind of goes along and explains Josh Allen's drop in interception numbers, as well as their continued success through the air. So Josh Allen isn't having to throw the ball as far, and Khalil Shakir is one of the better after the catch runners in the NFL. He's very good at taking a ball and just knowing that there's a lane and getting to it. There was a play against the Rams, I'm pretty sure, where he caught the ball. It was a slant or a drag. It was like a 5-yard catch, and he just immediately took off. And you could tell he knew there was a hole and he was going to hit that hole. And it's different than some receivers where they'll catch the ball and they'll kind of hesitate and try to find the gap. He just inherently knew there's going to be somewhere I can get to, so I might as well hit the gas pedal and go full speed right now so that I can hit that hole and break an arm tackle from a DB on my way to a touchdown. And that's exactly what he did. So his ability to do that and the team's ability to create after the catch has led to Josh Allen passing for fewer interceptions, and the team has been allowed to move off of the big name receivers more successfully while not dropping off in the touchdown numbers. With all of these stats, all of these occurrences, and the trends that we've noticed, the Bills find themselves basically atop the AFC. Obviously, the Chiefs are the 1 seed, but they've lost to the Bills, and I am more confident in the Bills than I am in the Chiefs right now. So, heading into the playoffs, which they clinched division early as shit, man. They are
week
a team,
10?
something like that. But they are a team I would absolutely not want to meet if I was anybody in the AFC. And I am curious if there are any Bills fans watching. I know we've got other AFC East fans that watch the videos. There was a Dolphins fan that got mad at us on one of the shorts that we posted. And then the Jets fan that watches, shout out, by the way. And then me, obviously, the Patriots fan. So if there are any Bills fans that are here watching, if you've watched every game, because I have not, definitely let us know down in the comments what is working for you, what is not working for you, and where you think you need to improve. Because obviously every single team can improve at certain positions, and I'm curious to know where the Bills are lacking, obviously on defense, but where on defense could they improve best. And with that, I believe we will be ending this portion of the podcast, this Bills segment, brought to you by James Cook. Shout out. And with all of that, we will get into the PickEms recap. So if you are here for just this podcast segment, we appreciate you, we love you, and we hope that you check out the full podcast. And if you're here for the full podcast, you're great. Let's get into the PickEms.
Yep, real quick, I will burn through it. We'll get to, do you have stock moves that you're making this week?
Got one.
All right. I've got one as well, so we are going to fly through the rest of this episode after that segment. Starting off with the Week 15 recap. I had a little rough part at the opening with the Thursday night, and I did go in a little rough patch in the middle of Sunday, but I did end up going 10-6, so I'm not too upset about that as a overall record for myself. And then for your side, you also went ahead and went 10-6. We did disagree on a decent amount of games, so I'm lucky that it fell in my favor, in air quotes, by making us balance. I didn't fall behind you on the overall record any more than I have been. Your overall record on the year is 150-74. Mine is 142-82. And then for the lock records, you are keeping pace phenomenally with 13-2, and I am sitting at a... the Ravens won. Cool. I am sitting at 9-6 for my lock record on the year. I really, I did save the best for last with the Ravens pulling out in the last month of pick'ems, but I got to make sure I land some of these.
Yeah, I'm really looking to keep those going, but we can transition from the pick'ems recap into stocks real quick, where we will be making a couple of moves. My move will be selling off my Bengals stock. I'm not expecting them to lose any more games, but they have made me a fair sum of money. So I will be up to $37.50, and I will be out Bengals stock. So I'm holding on to the Bucks and Rams stock. I think they have a chance towards the end of the season to just kind of go on a run, both teams. So I will be holding on to them, but I am curious to see what you're going to resort to for your boys.
Yeah, I am down from your money right now, where you're at, your net worth. I'm down from you, just about 500. And I don't like that. So I got to keep more money out there, out in the stock market. Let it make money for me. Let my money work for me. And so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stick with that, ideology there. But there's just one team that I think out of all of these stocks is certainly trending down. Now you can say what you want about the Panthers and the Jags, but they aren't trending down. They've been down. The 49ers, I am not confident in very, very far. I know that they play the Lions in a couple of weeks, and this one they played the Dolphins. That's one that I'm like very iffy on, especially after the performance that the Dolphins just put up. The Ravens, I know I trust going forward, and then the Bengals. They've made me money, just like you. They've made me the same amount of money as you. But I feel that this week, a divisional matchup, they have more of a chance to win, especially with DTR leading the Browns. So I'm not really wanting to resort to dropping them right before a matchup I think that they can win. So a team that has actually lost me money out of the Panthers and Jags, I don't want to drop. I don't want to accept a loss. So I'm going to be taking the dub on the $75 I made from the Jaguars stock and going ahead and offloading that, adding $675 into my bank account, which will put me at a $1475 bank account. And I'm not going to be, this isn't money that I'm now allocating towards the Panthers or anybody else. I think that this point of the season, the bad teams are bad, and anyone that might be looking to just get a little random upset out of nowhere isn't anything I'm willing to risk the money on for that. So yeah, I'm gonna rock with the stocks I have right now. The Bengals, I got 3 of them. The 49ers, I've got 2. The Panthers, I've got 2. And the Ravens, I've got 2. Almost all of those looking at current profits. And if they drop one, I don't lose. I'm not going to then accept the loss. But I'm hopeful that a couple of these games go in my favor and I'm able to pinch out ever so much extra cash to bridge that gap on the net worth we got.
Yeah. I'm looking pretty good. I was tempted to just drop everything because I'm over 6,000 in net worth, and I'm like, I don't know if I can expect to go much higher than that, and I don't want to lose $75 and go down under 6,000 when I've been over it. So it's really tempting, but I believe in the Bucks and Rams. I think if one drops, one will succeed. So we can head on out of the stocks segment and get into this week of PickEms, where we're in the final stretch of the season. We're looking at week 16. Then we've got 2 more weeks, and then it's playoffs, and then that's bracket time. That's not Pick'ems time. So, kicking off Pick'ems with Thursday night football divisional matchup for the Broncos at the Chargers. This is a complete toss-up to me, not just because of the divisional aspect of it, but just these teams. They're so odd. I cannot get a read on either team. I don't know which Bo Nix we're going to get, and I don't know which Chargers we're going to get. They just got obliterated by the Buccaneers, and the Broncos just squeaked. I mean, on the scoreboard, not necessarily squeaked out, but they just barely beat the Colts because the Colts suck, not because the Broncos played an outstanding game. But I'm going to believe in the Chargers. I think they've shown me a little bit more, and I think Jim Harbaugh is a little bit more trustworthy to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and take them at home.
Yeah, I'm going to be picking opposite you. I'm picking the Broncos here because I feel that this Broncos offense is closer to the Buccaneers offense that just, like they are closer in semblance to the Buccaneers offense that just lit up the Chargers in my eyes schematically in the way that they play. Not necessarily, the roster makeup, the players themselves, but the way that the Broncos can operate their offense is very effectively, just like the Buccaneers can. And against this Chargers team, I think that the Buccaneers are going to barely beat them out in this one. It's definitely very close. That divisional matchup always heightens things, especially late in the year. But I'm going to go with the Broncos here. And then next up, we've got the Texans visiting the Chiefs. Now, this is a Chiefs that, late year arc. Pat Mahomes, week to week, we don't know if he'll play. I'm going to go with the Texans here. I don't think that if Mahomes plays, he's going to fare very well against the defensive line the Texans do have. Hunter and Will Anderson are going to make it punishing. I know we've been picking in favor of the Chiefs all year, and it's a very winning team, but I feel that this just ever so slightly might go in the Texans' favor, so I'm going to be picking against the Chiefs here.
Yeah, I'm going to continue my trend of picking for the Chiefs so that I am not disappointed when they inevitably win. I think that the Texans absolutely should win this. They, I think, are just undoubtedly the better looking team, especially going into this week. But Mahomes practiced fully today, and Hollywood Brown practiced fully today, so they'll be getting. I would be shocked if Mahomes doesn't suit up and Hollywood Brown is trending to play. So I think they've got a good enough chance, and I think there will be enough black magic and shenanigans that the Chiefs will yet again pull out a victory. And then we get into another divisional matchup, Steelers at Ravens. This is our franchise tagged game of the week. These matchups are near impossible to predict, and I know Lamar hasn't been good against the Steelers in the past and throughout his career, but I'm going to still take the Ravens in this one. I think they've got something to prove, and they need to pick one up here. And I think Lamar is ultimately better than the Steelers defense.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I've got the Ravens winning this one as well. And then next we've got the Giants visiting the Falcons. Ha 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 ha. This could have been shit show of the week. It's not, but I'm going to be picking the Falcons to win this one at home. I wish I could pick this to be a tie, but then I would just be hurting my my PickEms record, so I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I also think this could be a tie, but I'm hopeful that Michael Penix might get the start. And if he does that, then it's going to be Falcons by 1,000,000. So I'm picking the Falcons in this one, regardless of who's at quarterback. I think the Falcons take it. And then next up, Cardinals at Panthers. The Panthers have looked good, and the Cardinals, I mean, they beat the Patriots, but who hasn't? So I think I'll still be taking the Cardinals, but this is, I think we can put this safely on upset watch, where the Panthers might be able to pull out a tight victory here.
Yeah, I am going to be picking in favor of the Panthers playing at home. I really just want them to win. I think I've picked them a few solid times the past couple of weeks. I yearn for a win there. Naturally, since we've disagreed on the Cardinals pick, the Cardinals will make me wrong and they will win and you'll be right. But I'm going to stick to my guns and I'm going to go with the Panthers there. Then we've got the Lions visiting Chicago. Yeah, Lions. The Lions' offense at least looked good, and the Bears' offense couldn't produce much of anything due to their own self-inflicted wounds. Despite our really outside-inflicted wounds to our defense, I think we still managed to hold them to a very minimal offensive production day.
Yep, I also have the Lions in this one. Pretty easy pick. I mean, hey, maybe the Bears can take advantage, and it's a divisional matchup, so you never know. But I think you know. Then we go Titans at Colts, another divisional matchup. I've got the Colts in this one. The Titans are starting Mason Rudolph. I think that's kind of the white flag of all white flags, and it's not because he's white. But yeah, I think Anthony Richardson needs to show something, and this is the game to do it in, even though the Titans' defense is pretty damn good.
Yeah, I've got the Colts in this one. I think it's going to be a lot closer than you would think with Mason Rudolph at quarterback, but it's going to be off the back of the defense for the Titans I'm referring to. The Colts, it's late in the year, and they haven't really managed mustered up much, but I think that they can definitely bully up on a division rival here. Then we've got the Rams visiting the Jets. Rams by 1,000,000. I don't care what happens. I think that the Jets are just... It's really just a give-up attitude at this point. But, I mean, the Rams, they're winning, not by a lot, not with a lot of offensive touchdowns, at least last week, but they're winning, and that's the bottom line. I'm going to go with them.
Yep, I'm agreeing with you there. Rams over Jets for sure. But I hope some of these bad teams can win games just because Patriots draft pick needs to get better. Then we've got Eagles at Commanders. We're going through a lot of divisional games here this week. I think we're going to disagree here. I'm taking the Eagles in this one. They did not show me enough against the Panthers. They definitely showed me enough last week against the oh god, who is that? The Steelers when they beat the Steelers. And the main thing that is leading me to pick against the Commanders is Cliff Kingsbury. He can't finish out seasons. I still don't think he can, and we are getting towards the end of the season, so it's about that time, Cliff.
Yeah. I am actually agreeing with you with the Eagles here. The Commanders started off so hot, and that's the Cliff Kingsbury way. The Eagles, they've been more up and down. They've been a lot of drama going on in Philadelphia, but they're still managing to win games through that all. So there's no reason for me to doubt it now. Going with the Eagles there. Then we've got the Browns. I said Eagles there, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Now we've got the Browns visiting the Bengals. I thought I said Bengals there, but now we've got the Browns visiting the Bengals. I've got the Bengals here. Joe Burrow is maintaining the status he's had all year of playing extremely well on a team that does not defensively have the help. And it's the Browns starting DTR. I just said it in the stocks part, but I think they have a solid chance of winning this one.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Bengals in this one. I fear that the Bengals defense might make DTR look like Prime Vic, but I'm not 100% sure about that, and I don't believe in that enough to pick the Browns, even though the Bengals defense is horrific and they just lost Trey Hendrickson as well. Or they lost somebody. They lost whoever caught that touchdown pass for them. He got hurt on that play. Was it Sam Hubbard, maybe?
Possibly. I feel like I heard about that.
Yeah, he tore his PCL. Sam Hubbard, not Trey Hendrickson. But still, another loss on that defense that was already not good. Kind of has me worried, but yeah, I'm still going to take the Jamar Chase show over the DTR show any day of the week. Then Vikings at Seahawks. I'm taking the Vikings in this one. The Seahawks, I mean, if Geno goes, maybe they'll put up a fight, but I fear for that offensive line against that defense. Like I am legitimately scared for the health of whatever quarterback the Seahawks put out there.
Yeah. The Vikings love to bring pressure, get pressure, and win. So I've got the Vikings in this one against a really rough showing from the Seahawks. And then next we've got the Patriots at the Bills. I'm going to be taking the Bills. I know. It's a shocking revelation. No one saw this coming. It's
What?
quite the upset. I think there might be some bias on this podcast. Me being the foil for you, I got to pick the Bills. But yeah, go ahead and tell the people that you're picking the Patriots.
Yeah, no, you're insane. I'm definitely going Patriots in this one. They're taking it to the Bills 100%. Gonzo's going to lock down whatever receiver you put across the field from him. Don't worry about the rest of the team. No. In all seriousness, Gonzo locked down Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know if you saw the tape of him just completely clamping him, but that was a really good performance from him, and I was really happy to see that. I will be taking the Bills, and in fact, I believe in them so much that this is my lock of the week. I have yet to lock the Buffalo Bills this season, which somewhat shocked me, but I'm glad I'm keeping the good teams until the end. Next up, we get into our shit show of the week, the Jaguars at the Raiders. It's crazy that a week with the Giants at Falcons didn't win it, but it's just because this matchup is so much worse. I'll take the Jags. You know what? Nah, this is a tie. I am guessing that this is going to be a tie. I'm going to throw the yellow piss colored highlight on both of these teams. We're going for a tie here. Yes, I am aware that I'm probably just giving you one up in the PickEms rankings, but if we're both wrong, then
Yeah.
will have been glad to be the more fun wrong answer.
Yeah, I'm going to be selecting as the winner of Shit Show of the Week the Raiders. I, you know, just vibes. Home team. The Jags I just picked and they didn't win, so fuck them. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Raiders in this one.
I'm scared of what Jack Jones is going to do to Mac Jones. It'll be a Patriots reunion. And the single season pick six record, it's 6, right? Set last year. I think Jack
Yeah.
Jones might break that this game, just in this game.
He knows his tendencies. Next, we've got the 49ers going against the Dolphins. I've got the Dolphins here. They didn't put up a great showing, but they're playing at home. I trust Tua as a whole on the year. Not sure lately, but I have confidence in the Dolphins to win at home late in the year here.
I have no confidence in the Dolphins. However, I will still be picking them because I have less confidence in the 49ers. This is a game that early on in the season, or in the preseason, we probably would have been looking at this matchup like, whoa, that's going to have some crazy playoff implications. Like, this will be the game for the 1 seed. If the Dolphins win, they'll probably be in running for the 1 seed.
Nope.
So yeah, this game is much less interesting than it would have been before the season. But yeah, I'll take the Dolphins. And then Bucks at Cowboys, taking the Bucks real easily here. The Cowboys they suck, man.
I'll match that with no contest. The same way the Cowboys are going to take the field against the Buccaneers. It will be no contest, and Bucks win. Then we've got the Saints against the Packers. Prime time. I've got the Packers absolutely shocking nobody, and you may have thought, oh my, Elijah, did you forget all about the locks? No, I didn't. This is my lock of the week. I've got the Packers beating the Saints.
Yeah, that's a worthy lock. I am also taking the Packers over the Saints. If I could just use multiple locks and then not have to use them the rest of the year, I would 100% do that. But unfortunately, that's not how this works. So that will round out PickEms. And is there anything else that you would like to leave these people with? Any words of wisdom or wisdom for them to lead or live their lives by?
If you've made it this far and you watched the YouTube video, go ahead and check out the Spotify if that is a way you would prefer to listen to it. Listen to the commute. And if you liked, go ahead and hit like. If you liked so much that you would like to see more of us, hit the subscribe. We always have segment videos coming out every week. In the off season, in the pre-draft, we have lots of content ready, primed to go. I think we've already pre-planned about 20, so it's going to be a pipeline that lasts the entire summer. All of your off season for football, we got you. And with that, deuces.
Deuces.